Mavericks, welcome back to another episode of the podcast. Today I've got Caspar with me. We're going to be diving deep on a very powerful topic. But
Very
before we
well,
do,
thank
how are
you,
you,
Stretch.
Cas?
It's great to be here again. It's another cool morning here in the UK. The sun's slowly coming up. But yeah, it's a pleasure to be here with you again, Stretch. I'm excited about the conversation that we're going to dive into today. I think it's going to be very illuminating.
Yeah, exactly, mate. Exactly. Well, let's introduce it. And before I do introduce it, what I want to say is I think a lot of men are going to have some skepticism around this topic. And there might be this sort of like, I just want to turn off. I don't want to listen to this. But I encourage you to hang around and I encourage you to listen to this because it might be a real eye opener. And it's easy for us just to think, okay, this is not for me. But by listening in today, you might start to get like that aha moment, or you might start to see maybe that limiting belief that's holding you back or that's been holding you back for a long time. So the topic we're going to talk about today, I'm going to introduce it as the shortcut to success in midlife. But really what we're going to do is we're going to talk a lot about coaching. All right. So obviously Cass is a life coach, and I'm a health coach. And obviously we've probably got a little bit of bias about coaching, but we weren't always in these roles, and both Cass and I have got our own experiences of hiring lots of different coaches to get us to where we are today. And although I think, a lot of guys believe that they know it all, they're quite stubborn and think that they can push through. Without the coaches and the mentors that I've had through my life, I would definitely not be where I am today. So I'm super grateful for that experience. And I can't wait to talk to you a little bit about coaching and maybe, open your eyes to maybe something that you've overlooked or something that might be useful to you. Cass, you got anything you want to add before we dive in?
Nothing to add on it. I'm keen to share with you guys a story, especially around the know-it-all piece, because that was me. And I'm just going to dive in and get stuck into this. So this must be around about 10 years ago. I was, or maybe even longer, about 11 years ago, maybe even 12, when I'd first transitioned from my old role or my old career in real estate. I'd moved back to England and I'd retrained as a personal trainer. I had got myself a coaching position at a CrossFit gym. I was crazy into CrossFit back then. I'd fully drunk in the Kool-Aid, and I was very committed to my training, and I used to push really hard. I think as well, like back then I was in my late 20s. I was definitely more resilient then as I am now in my 40s, and I could recover and bounce back a little quicker. And I thought I knew how to exercise. I knew how to do a deadlift. I knew how to do kettlebell swings. I had all the skills. And a group of us every few times every week would gather in the gym. A couple of the other trainers at the gym and a couple of the members who I would say were at like quite high level in terms of their like strength, skill, fitness. And we would get together in the afternoon and we'd get around the whiteboard and we'd write up these workouts, which were really, looking back at them, like really quite extreme. The combinations of exercises, the weight that we were moving, the time, and then there was that competitive element in the mix as well. Just like a bunch of guys fit and strong, like ready to push really hard, right? And so we would get into these workouts and just absolutely thrash ourselves. And we go in maybe 3 to 4 times a week. And I can remember the days off, rest days, which may be only like 2 to 3 rest days per week, feeling really sore, really broken, really achy to the point where it would actually disrupt my sleep. But I thought that was good. I was like, this pain, it's like, it's what you need to be able to get fitter and get stronger. It's like, you just need to push really hard. Like it's all about more training equals more results, heavier weights, harder training sessions. Like that's what's going to make the difference. That's going to make you strong. Right. And after a year of this, I started to feel like, okay, my body was giving me signals like aches and pains, strains, workouts, like rather than like turning up to the gym, be like, can't wait, gonna get into this one, I would start to dread them. I knew what was coming. I knew that it was going to be tough. I knew there was going to be uncomfortable barriers to push through, and it was going to suck, and I was going to feel kind of shit afterwards. I never left the gym on those training sessions feeling like, oh, I feel amazing, I feel great in my body. I would always leave just like, I feel fucked, like my body feels fucked, and like I couldn't think straight. It was that extreme. And I can remember after about a year of training like this, thinking you've got all the skills and the knowledge, right? And I went in to do some retesting, because within especially at the time within CrossFit, there was a lot of like measuring. So you would do a kind of 1 rep max deadlift, 1 rep max back squat. You could test your bench press. You could then put yourself through like a 10-minute air bike test, or a 2K row, or you might go for like something which is like a longer aerobic piece. So you could get your numbers, you can get your figures to actually see like, this is where I currently am in terms of my strength, my aerobic capacity, like my muscle endurance, and potentially like some skill pieces there as well. So I did a load of retesting after a year, because I had my numbers before and I had my numbers afterwards. And after a year, I had not got fitter. I had not got stronger. I just felt fucked. And that's when the penny dropped for me. I was like, right, okay, so I clearly know nothing about programming, zero. You just write stuff up on the board and just think, just train and you'll get fitter and stronger. And that was when I started to go, okay, there's something in this. There's something that I don't know, and I want to know, because I want to become an amazing trainer, an amazing coach on the gym floor, and I want to help people get fitter and stronger. But if I'm unable to like get those results myself, like there is something missing here. And that's when I started seeking out guidance from other coaches who had trained and studied in program design and knew what it takes to sustainably move somebody from point A to point B to point C to point D over time, whilst ensuring that they were recovering well, they were getting, the right type of stimulus in their training sessions, and they were actually getting fitter and stronger and feeling good. So that's when I reached out, and I took on my first coach, and that was my first experience into coaching. And I've had many coaches since then in various different kind of modalities. I've had Olympic weightlifting coaches when I was looking to improve my numbers and was on those lifts, and I was really dedicated to the Olympic weightlifting path. I've had health coaches, I've had nutrition coaches, and obviously more recently I've had many life coaches and mentors that I've been working with. But it was that first step. It was the like hands up, is like, I actually don't know what I'm doing, and I'm okay with that.
It's a good story, mate. I like it. I think we've been there, or a lot of us have been there. I think a lot of CrossFit boxers too have got programming similar to that. A lot of people make good progress in the start when they go from not doing much to doing CrossFit, and then progress can often slow down if the programming isn't sort of spot on. And it's funny because I think as blokes, maybe we grow up playing sport and we have a coach, team sports especially, we have a coach. And maybe with sort of fitness, we can invest in, CrossFit gyms or other things. We sort of accept a coach there. But then at other times, like when we talk about life coaching or we talk about health coaching, I think that skepticism still goes up. And it is that what you talked about. I should be able to do this by myself. I know this. I'm a coach. I know how to program. I'm a coach. I should be able to know how to get fit and strong. I'm just going to push my way through it and the results will come, because that's what it's all about. But like we sort of said offline, it's one of those things, isn't it? When we look at successful men, when we look at successful athletes, successful CEOs, successful special force operators, like all of these people have coaches. If we can even look in business, business mentors, business tutors, coaches, and they help people. And like even in our career, we're an expert at our career. That's what we do. But if we want to go further, we've got to think about, well, do I invest in education, which is a teacher, which is, you could say as a coach, or do I get a mentor? And we sort of push through with that. But, with life and health coaching, sometimes I think yeah, we're very skeptical about that. And I think we need to dive into that just a little bit more and talk about some of the skeptical attitudes a lot of men have around coaching. So thanks for sharing that story, because that's definitely one of them. I should be able to do this on my own. And the reality check is maybe not, or maybe you could do it on your own, but what if you could save yourself a lot of time, a lot of energy, and you could work with someone that could really help you create those results a lot faster that you're looking for? Have I got a story to share myself? I'd probably do. There's loads. And like you say, Cass, I've had loads of coaches too. I think growing up playing sport, there was also a time when I was transitioning my career. So leaving the corporate world and moving into personal training. And in that journey, I hired a personal trainer to train me in the gym. And it was just partly I was training for a marathon at the time. So it was to support my marathon training. But it was also, this is an opportunity to learn, arts of the trade, the tricks of the trade, get inside knowledge, which helped me to transition my career. But I think the story that I want to share is probably 10 years into working as a personal trainer, being a gym owner, selling my gym in London, moving back home to Australia. And at the time, I thought I was doing everything right for my health. I'd studied a lot to do with my health, or a lot to do with health and fitness, learned a lot over training for many years, writing tens of thousands of programs. But my health was deteriorating, and no matter what I tried, I couldn't get on top of it. Sleep troubles, adrenal fatigue, just low on energy, just burnt out, totally burnt out. And I thought, I knew about health and fitness. I was eating, a healthy diet. I was doing everything right. I wasn't pushing myself too much with training, but I was, moving. I was meditating at the time, gratitude, just you name it, doing everything I thought that was going to help me. And then I signed up for a health coaching course with Chris Kreza, and it was a 12-month course, a 12-month program. And we started to dive into sort of holistic health, and we started to talk about, blood work and looking at the blood work, looking at your vitamins, your minerals, looking at your hormones, looking at your genes, and going down the rabbit hole, if you like, of that side of things, holistic health. And that's when I started to work with an integrative doctor. So now I'm doing a health coaching course. I'm learning from, Chris Kreza, who teaches health coaches, who teaches functional medicine practitioners. And I'm investing in an integrative doctor to do the work and dig into my blood work. And I'm learning and absorbing as much of this at the time as I can. But yeah, uncovered a load of things that I would never have been able to figure out by myself. It's well beyond my pay grade. No, it's just well beyond, the stuff that I could get a hold of without, consulting these experts and working with these experts, but then also learning about my health and learning about what I needed to do to individualize my diet, to individualize my training, and to set myself up in terms of my lifestyle to restore my health and get back to where I wanted to be. And it was a transformative process, and it probably took a good sort of 6 to 12 months. But with every step along the way, just huge shifts. And like what I've learned in 10 years of being a personal trainer just didn't really connect the dots of what I needed to do. So that was probably one of the biggest transformations I've had in my life to date. And I know if I didn't invest in it, I didn't go down that path, my health would be considerably worse. And if I trusted in the conventional medicine system, I don't know where I'd be right now. So that's part of my motivation to get into health coaching and to do the work that I do, because I personally have seen what the results can be just by modifying your lifestyle, just by doing blood work, just by diving deep and just giving a fuck, let's say, about your own health and prioritizing that. So that's probably the story I'll share here, mate. But let's dive into some other sort of skeptical thoughts. What else do you think? What else have you heard from guys when you bring up, hey, I'm a life coach, or a life coach men in midlife, Cass? Is there anything else you want to share?
I think that a big one that comes up for a lot of men is, what will other people think? And I feel there's still a little bit of stigma around this, especially when people share, they say, oh, I've got a life coach, and they may feel that others are going to criticize them or think less of them, to the point where they feel like, oh, you've hired a life coach. It means like something must be really wrong in your life, or you must be broken in some way to have to reach out to somebody to help you kind of put your put your life together in some way, which is, it couldn't be further away from the truth. You know, what we're talking to here and what you're really speaking to here, Stretch, and what we've been sharing so far on this episode is, in fact, we can have what we think are all the answers, but we're really pushing up against a glass ceiling in some way. And working with a coach, we get to push through to that next level by having somebody who's potentially walked the path that they want to walk ahead of them. They've figured out a lot of this stuff themselves, and they can hold space and point to, you know, the limiting beliefs, the blind spots, the decisions that people continue to make that perpetuate the same type of results, the results that aren't working for them, and they want something bigger, brighter, more full within their lives, be it in their career, their health, their relationships. So there's definitely like this bit of stigma around, you know, what will people think, and I guess that's something that we have to overcome, especially as men, to get to a point where you can put your hand up and be like, I don't have all the answers, I don't have all the knowledge, and actually, like, I'm going to go and seek support, or I'm going to seek guidance, or I'm going to seek knowledge, and really have the courage to do so, and the humility to go, like, right now, like, things aren't where I want them to be. I want more. And how am I going to go and get that? Because if I haven't been able to produce the results that I want, like, what's going to change until I go, okay, like, these things need to shift in order for me to get the result that I want.
Yeah, I like it, mate. And I think I've heard you throw the term about before, and maybe now's a good time to throw it in there. But what do you mean by default mode?
Default mode. Yes, the default mode. So I want to break this down for our listeners really quickly. So the default mode is essentially like our programming. That can be programming from our society. Early on, we receive programming through our parents, our teachers, our mentors, peers, and it's a kind of default way of being, right? And as we get older, that default mode can become even more entrenched and solidified. It's like you only know what you know, so you only rely on your own knowledge that you've gained over time. And you can kind of get stuck in a little bit of a patterning, which is built up over time from beliefs, thoughts, actions, and habits. And when I often talk about, you know, familiar patterns producing familiar results, that is essentially the default mode. It's like, this is your familiar patterning, and it's going to produce a familiar result going forward. So often we have to disrupt the default mode. We have to, like, turn the mirror inside and look deeply at ourselves and go, what's working and what's not working? What needs to change? What shifts do I need to make within myself to start to produce a different result? And this can often require us to break bad habits or break habits, shift beliefs, you know, dream bigger, and then start to understand, how do we move towards that result that we want, and how do I need to change? How do I need to shift myself, and move out of the known and step into unknown? And that can be really scary, especially as we start to move towards our midlife and later in and on our journey towards old age. We become quite entrenched in our thinking, quite entrenched in our actions, entrenched in our habits. And sometimes you just need somebody to, like, come in and go, that needs to change, this needs to change. If you want that result, you need to stop doing this. Or maybe not so harsh as stop doing this, or consider making a different choice. Because essentially, you know,
Yep.
our reality and what we experience day to day is a summation of the choices that we have made in the past and that we continue to make in the present. So if by your default mode,
Yes.
if you're continuing to make the same choices or similar choices, why would you expect a different result? You know, it's madness. It's like, you know, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. That is the default mode. And my invitation to guys listening to this is think about your default mode, think about your own patterning, your own processes, and think about the results that's producing, and ask yourself this question, like, what are you choosing? That's my rant on the default mode.
It's powerful, mate. That's good. I like it. A lot comes up for me when you just talked about what you talked about. There's a little bit of stuff I want to circle back to in a minute, and it's that vulnerability. It's about admitting that you need help. And I think that's a topic we should touch today, because a lot of men struggle with that, and our society encourages men to struggle with that. So I think we should circle back to that. So I'm going to put my hand up and remember that one. But when I hear you talk about default mode, the first thing that pops into my mind is my dad. And I think a lot of blokes might think this too. Like, we look at our dads, our aging parents, and maybe they've got health issues, or maybe they're struggling with something in their life, and we can see a better way. You know, we can see that, hey, if you did this or if you did that, it would really help. But I just see my dad as stubborn, and like, he's got some underlying health issues, and he just doesn't want to change his ways. And one of the things he thinks is like, I'm too old now. Like, he's just, I'm beyond it. You know, just this change, that's for young fellas, or, you know, I can't learn this new thing, or I can't get up to date with this. So I'm just going to stay where I am right now. And I'm sure a lot of blokes can relate to that. You probably see, you know, your dad, your uncle, someone that's a bit older than you, struggling with something that you might be able to help them with. But no matter how you try and present that idea to them, they're just going to dig that hole deeper and pitch their tent and just not move. So when I hear you talk about default mode, I really sort of think about that and just think, well, I don't want to be that stubborn old man when I get to that age, but I don't want to be that stubborn man right now, and not to have that growth mindset. I don't want to be fixed in my ways. I want to be able to make choices. And I think one of the things I often use in coaching is to give myself permission to experiment. Like you sort of said, if you don't make shifts, if you don't make changes, if you get stuck doing the same pattern that you talked about, stuff is not going to change. Every year, you know, January comes, we probably set new health and fitness goals, and we go to the gym for 2 or 3 months, and then we fall off the bandwagon. We eat clean for a few months, we do some sort of crazy diet, expect to lose weight, we put it all back on. And it's just that vicious circle, because we don't create sustainable change. And we don't give ourselves that permission to experiment in terms of like, hey, I'm going to try something. And if I fail, awesome. That's great. Well done. That's fucking fantastic, because A, you've tried something new, but B, you've learned that maybe that's not a solution for you. What you've just done there isn't going to work. So let's try something different. And there's that potential for growth. Every time we move in one direction and we hit that failure, excellent, because now you've got the potential for growth, to learn from that mistake, to change your behaviors, to try something new, and see how far that next behavior change, that next habit, that next goal you set yourself takes you. And it might not get you all the way there, but then you have permission to experiment and move again and just keep growing along the way. And I'm stubborn at the best times too, but I'm trying my best to let that wall down and, you know, move forward in those parts of my life and be willing to adapt, learn and grow.
Yeah, I love that stretch.
Yeah, so that's my two bobs.
Something that I want to put in there as well around like, and just kind of building on that vulnerability piece. I think often when we start to move towards midlife, we can become, again, quite set in our ways, you know, and also not very comfortable with being a beginner or not knowing, right? Because everybody wants to know everything. You have all the answers. We can go to Google and search for anything that we want, right? But I think there's something really magical about stepping into that beginner mindset and stepping into that unknown and being willing to receive and willing to question, you know, your beliefs, and willing to question your actions and question like actually how, you know, your way of being can be or it might be in a position where it's not producing the results that you want, and actually then there may be something more, right? And I love this. I think it's a wonderful thing to do at the moment. Well, over the past couple of years, I've been learning to play the guitar, and I every time I sit down, I'm like, this is great. Being shit at something is really good. It's like that's such a great place to be. It's and as well, it tests my and helps my neuroplasticity, because I'm trying to figure out something
Yep.
new, and I'm also getting really comfortable with not being good at something. And I like to put myself in those positions because it reminds me that it's okay to be, in a position of like not knowing, and also in a position where you're ready to receive like new teachings, I guess, in some way.
Yeah, it's powerful, mate. There's a lot of powerful work there. I did a lot of invested a lot of times working with Ido Portal and going to his movement camps, and that was well out of my comfort zone. I think when I first stumbled across Ido and did one of his workshops, and then just went to one of his movement camps in Thailand, and it's very different from the training that I was doing. So I was doing CrossFit, and I was doing gymnastic stuff and strength stuff, and in the gym, the typical squats, deadlifts, all that sort of stuff. And then you've got Ido teaching locomotions and teaching what looks like kids games, balancing sticks on your hand, juggling balls, pushing and pulling games with partners, lots of different stuff that you just wouldn't see in your standard gym. And people looking in on that sort of judgment that we talked about, what other people think, like the crowd at the gym that were probably looking at me going and doing this stuff, were like, what the hell is he doing? Like, why is he doing that? And I felt totally unco. We were even doing some BJJ and, all that sort of stuff, which I've never done before. But it's that potential for growth. Like, the more you put yourself in the beginner's shoes, the more you learn and the more you'll grow. And you can take a lot of different things from so many different modalities that we learn and apply them to other parts of your life. But if you just do the same repetitive shit day after day after day, like, you're just not growing, you're just not moving, and you're just leaving so much on the table. So I think one of the things that sort of taught me a lot about movement was just like how we can benefit so much from looking outside of our current frame. And I think it's a mistake in coaching. When we look at coaching, you could talk about Olympic weightlifting, you could talk about powerlifting, you could talk about the coaching of team sports. A lot of the coaches are just ex-players or ex-lifters or ex-athletes that have come up, and they coach the same way their coaches coach. And it's just been passed down through generation to generation. Not saying there's anything wrong with that. Obviously that works. But what if you could pull something from another field of sport or another field of health that could improve the potential or the performance of the players, of your output, of the athletes, even of the coaches? And sometimes we're just so fixed, we don't see that. And it's incredible to be able to experience that, not only from the movement side and learning new movement, which is great for neuroplasticity, what you talked about, but it's even like learning a new language, learning to play the guitar, learning an instrument. Like, there's just so much we can do in terms of our hobbies that helps us break free from the default mode, as you call it, Cass. And I like it, what you're saying there.
Yeah.
So thanks for sharing. Let's before we forget it, let's touch on this vulnerability piece just a little bit, mate. What are your thoughts about vulnerability, especially for men? What we see in society, and maybe how we can learn to overcome, I suppose, the masculinity, or what we're told about masculinity. What would you say there?
Yeah, I feel like there's a story coming through that I want to share, and there are many. I want to just select the right one. I think for me personally, and I want to share this because I again, it's a unique experience for me, but it would be universal for men and anybody really listening at all to this episode. But I can recall when I was not in a very good place, and I was working really hard, training really hard, and just felt like there was something missing, and I couldn't quite put my finger on what it was. And I did a ton of soul searching, and it got to a point where I thought to myself, yeah, I just continue just to kind of, keep calm and carry on, that classic British line, this kind of like, pull your socks up and just gonna get stuck in.
Did you have the t-shirt, mate?
Yeah, this keep calm and carry on. It's just like this kind of, just work through it. But actually, deep down, there was some sadness. There was some know, lots of different like emotions that were sort of murmuring in the background, and they were like present with me. And I kind of felt like, I ticked all of the boxes. I had a great business. I'd achieved, gone beyond what I wanted to achieve within developing this gym business. I built like an amazing community of people. I was in a great partnership, and yet there was something missing, and I couldn't put my finger on it. Every time I got out of bed, like it was there. It was kind of in the background, and it just wouldn't shift. It would kind of go away, when I was like out with friends or like occupying myself doing other things. But every time I got quiet, this sort of like murmuring was like in the background. It was very uncomfortable, and it brought up a lot of like questions, a lot of kind of hard questions for me to look at, and often I didn't want to go there. And it got to a point where I thought to myself, okay, like something needs to shift here, and I need to go and share what I'm feeling with somebody other than a friend who's just going to give me advice, or a partner who's just going to give me advice, right? Often our people around us, our closest people, want to rush in and fix us. They want to rush in and like help us and give us, anything that they have at their disposal to make us feel better or console us in some way. And I reached out to a therapist kind of mentor coach. And this was a big step for me. And what I received from that individual wasn't consolation, and it wasn't advice. It was questioning about what could life look like, or what do I want life to look like, and give me the space to let that truth start to come up, like in a way that is not going to be judged, or in a way that is not going to be pointed at to be wrong or the wrong path. It was essentially just like uncovering my truth and uncovering what was there for me. And when that stuff started to come out, it was very liberating, with a bit of like, a bit scary at the same time. But it really started to illuminate what was kind of going on for me, where I was at, why I was getting this kind of this sense of despondency. And it took a lot of vulnerability to share that stuff, and it took a lot of bravery, I think, on my part to go and seek that out. But it was a huge turning point. It really started to like highlight a path into a new direction, and one that I started to walk. And I can say now, with my hand and heart, 5 or 6 years out from that experience, like, life feels incredibly different. My whole world has changed. And
Yeah. What was the shift? What was the shift at that time for you, Cass? So you say that there was a feeling, a sense that something was missing and you were struggling. What would you say was the transformation you got from working with, this therapist, this coach, if you could put it into words?
truth, I think, was what I got from it. The ability to like uncover my own truth. And it's a hard thing to do on one's own, like to get there, because you've got all this like conflicting like questions, and essentially, or how I'd like to call it, it's like what I was doing. I was ignoring the calling of my heart and trying to like place logic on top of like what my heart was saying with my head. I was like, and then all the fear stuff would kind of come out. It's like, I really want to, move in this different direction. And my head's like, yeah, but you built this amazing business and like everything's great here. And you got this, wonderful home and this great life. And, do you want to like move away from all of this? And that's scary. That's uncertain. But like, there was this like strong calling of something different. And I knew that it wasn't quite right. And yeah, I think that stepping into that space, and being asked questions, that really started to like highlight like what was going on for me, and then ask questions about like how can I start to make shifts in the direction that in the direction of your truth, in the direction of like what you actually really want to achieve, and how can you start to examine the stories that you're telling yourself that block you from making those steps, and start to dismantle those beliefs or dismantle those stories, or overcome that fear, you know?
Yeah. Reflecting now, when you look back at it now, what was that feeling? What were you missing? You've got a successful career, you've got good mates around you, you've built an awesome community in this gym. Most people would look at you and think, wow, success, like Cass is doing everything he needs to do. Wow, that's incredible. What do you feel was missing from?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. You know, I spent so long like trying to figure that out on my own. I was like, what's missing here? Like, I know that something's not right. And on paper, it's all good. Like, this is everything that that I dreamed of in my mid to late 20s. This is the vision. But values change, Stretch. We change. You know, like nature, like the whole world, it's constantly in this flow of change. And when we fail to adapt to, or fail to continue to change in ourselves, like that's where we can get this feeling of stuckness, right? And that's what I experienced. I was like, I'm living the dream of an outdated Caspar. I'm living the dream of 25-year-old Caspar, and I'm now, you know, coming into my mid 30s, and I'm like, things have changed for me, and I've realized there are things that I wanted to bring into my life that weren't existing here. Things that values and kind of areas of my life that hadn't been tended to, and that's where I started to really kind of look deep into myself and start to make these shifts into a new direction.
Yeah, that was your first midlife crisis, mate.
Yeah, it was an early one.
Yeah. I like that you share that, mate, because I think, you know, in our 20s, our vision of success, we can strive for. And that's working hard, and it's building a business and a career and relationships and friendships and so many things around us. And it feels great. But yeah, when we get to a certain point in our life, that definition of success maybe doesn't serve us, and it feels like something is missing, or it feels like there's more to life. And yet we've achieved everything we set out to achieve. And you get to this uncomfortable place of like, wow, this is amazing. I've got everything that I set out to achieve, but why do I feel like there's more? Or why do I feel like I'm missing something? And it's hard to put your finger on it, but, you know, it sounds like, you know, you obviously going and doing this coaching or working with this therapist to ask those powerful questions was an opportunity for you to create a new dream, or an opportunity for you to create a new vision, and for you to think about, well, what's the next season of my life going to hold, and where is this going to take me with relationships, with career, with my health, with all those things. And I think we get so wound up and we get so stuck in our way of thinking. You know, you talked about default mode. Sometimes we just don't create that space to step back and really question, like you said, what are my values? And am I living in alignment with those values? Or is the trajectory I'm on right now starting to move away from the values that are coming up for me? So it's a good story, mate. I really like it. There was one more question I had around it, because you talked about maybe some of the limiting beliefs or the things that were holding you back. Is there one in particular you can think of now that you think, when you look back at it now, you're like, oh, why did I just think that way? Or what was I thinking in terms of like how I'm stuck?
I thought to myself, and I told myself this story internally, but I also caught myself saying it out loud. And, you know, it was, I can remember where I was sat in my gym, and I said to myself, it was a kind of a vocalized share to myself and also somebody else who was present. And I said to myself, I don't know what I would do if I didn't have this. You know, what else is available to me? And that kind of trapped me a little bit. And then it wasn't really until, you know, a little bit later on when I was starting to go deeper with my personal training clients and use the life coaching tools and skills that I had picked up through working on, or through studying on the OPEC CCP, the life coaching module, that I started to go, like, this is where it's at. And this feels really good. Like, I'm really excited about like going deep with clients. And I was like, there's something here. And I was getting a lot of feedback from those individuals, like, wow, you know, this conversation that we've had has really like shifted something deep within me, and it's creating ripple effects across my life. And I thought, this is it. Like, this is where it's at. But I definitely felt there was a point where I was letting go of so much of not just what I've built, but my identity. I'm letting go of all of that, and then making this really bold leap into an unknown, and just deeply trusting in myself and my abilities. I was like, I've done this before. I've moved to Argentina. I've built an amazing career for myself in real estate over there. And then I just took a match to it at age 28. It was like, man. And started again when I was age 28, and I've shared this before in other episodes. At age 28, when all of my friends, they're starting to climb their corporate careers, or the ladder on their career path, and beginning to gain some success. And there's me, little old me, starting at the bottom and picking up all these kind of loose end coaching hours that nobody else wanted. But I had that vision, I wanted to open this gym. And so that was the process. But again, I had to really like shed my identity and start to like shift into something else. And it really, honestly, Stretch, it felt like, when I made that decision, it felt like opening a door into like a black void and just going, right, we got this, let's go. I jump out and just kind of, and just trust that the net will appear. So there was a lot like holding me back. I mean, there were like the beliefs that I had kind of started, and the stories that I was telling myself is like, I knew that I wanted something different, but I was telling myself like, this is all that's available to me, essentially. Like, that's the kind of essence of the belief. And I'm sure that many guys listening to this, and if they're feeling like they're wanting to make a big leap of some sort, they might be telling themselves the same type of story. Again, this like unique yet universal. It's like, this is all that's available to me right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that, mate. It's because it's like, it is stuck. You are stuck, and you're holding yourself back, telling yourself that this is all that's available to me right now. And you might have the knowledge, the skill, and the ability to turn your life around. And you just got to take that leap of faith. And sometimes having a coach in your corner to support and guide you can be the difference between having the courage to actually do that. And this circles back because when we started, what you just spoke about then, it was the vulnerability. And you mentioned it. It's being brave enough, because vulnerability isn't a weakness, it's a strength. And burying it down and pretending that it doesn't exist, that it's not there, pretending that you're not feeling this way, that you're not feeling stuck, or that, you're not feeling trapped, that's not helping. That's not serving men. And we've done it for a long time. We just bury it down, and it accumulates. It can just build up, and we just end up, taking that out, maybe on our partners, maybe on our kids, maybe on our mates, our relationships, maybe even on ourselves, like this self-judgment. And that's because we don't open up and we don't talk about it. And I think you said it before, when you were saying that you felt stuck, but you didn't want to talk to your partner, you didn't want to talk to your mates, because they're just going to turn around and give you advice. Oh, mate, come on, just push through, just keep going, you'll be fine, or just do this. But in reality, we don't necessarily want that advice. We just want someone to listen to us and someone to guide and support us so that we can figure out the best path forward. And that's really where coaching comes in. And it sounds like, it worked for you at that time, Cass. Like, you had that opportunity and it opened the doorway. And we can see the energy shift as you talk, Cass. Like, when you were talking about being stuck and talking about how you were feeling and not sure what's going on, you're a bit flat. But then when you talk about the change and the shift and opening that door, like, the energy in your voice, the energy in your expression totally changes, because this opportunity starts to present itself and you start to see light at the end of the tunnel. And it's exciting, and it's something that we thought maybe not possible. And I think that's the power of coaching. It can really help people shift, and it can really help men shift if they're willing to do the work. And vulnerability is a part of that work. And it takes courage and it takes bravery, to step into that arena and be willing to say, you know what, I don't know it all. I am struggling right now, and I would like some help and I would like some guidance. And sometimes that can't come from your partner or your mate. And that's where a coach can really, step in, or potentially a therapist, depending on what's going on for you. But the worst thing you can do is bury that, because it's not going to help you. It's not going to serve you moving forward. So if you are feeling that way, my advice is to, get out there and seek some help.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a big thing. And thanks for sharing that, Cass. I think it's a powerful story, and we
Thank
got a
you.
lot from that. So
Yeah. And
yeah, I like it.
the last thing I would say, and kind of you alluded to this as well, Stretch, earlier on in this conversation, is I wouldn't be here living, just a completely fulfilling life, if it wasn't for that deep process that I went through, and it was guided, it was supported, it was held by, a coach therapist who, who let me like unfold, and gave me that space where it wasn't, as you said, with a friend or a partner or a family member saying, oh, you've got it so good, you built this amazing thing, you should just stick at it, you're just going through a tough time, yada yada, and just not actually allowing me to unfold what was present, and really start to explore new possibility.
Yeah, that's exactly right, mate. I like it. I want to circle back a little bit. I want to talk about some other common, I suppose, skepticisms, or some of the common excuses that we might make around coaching. I feel this one's important because in the gym, we heard it all the time. A new member would come into the gym, or a potential member would come into the gym, and they'd see, these fit members working out, throwing around some big weights, doing whatever, and they would just freak the fuck out. It'd be like, wow, this is pretty full on. I'm not sure I'm ready for this. Or I'll just get fit first and then I'll become a member. And it's just one of the funniest things you hear, because it's just like, well, the best way to get fit is to join the gym, get involved in the community, take part in this, and you're going to, get those results far more effectively. And it's like saying, in your career, I'm just going to build my career first before I get career coaching, or I'm going to build my business first before I get business coaching. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't sort of compute. And I'm sure you see it in life coaching, where I might just get my life on track first and then I'll come to life coaching. Or people who are struggling with their health, it's like, well, I'm just going to get my health sorted and then maybe I'll, come to you for some health coaching. But it's a silly sort of thing to have. It's just like, well, if you're struggling, now is the perfect time to seek a coach, or now is the perfect time to get out there and start using the expertise, knowledge, and skills of, the expert that's going to be able to guide you to recover faster, or to grow your career faster, build that business, work on your life goals, your health goals, whatever it is. So I think it's perfectionism. We're trying to get ourselves to be perfect before we can go to a coach and go, oh, no, I'm all good. I've got everything sorted, but I just need your help with this bit, and this bit, and this bit. But it's like, well, along the way, we can learn so much more. So that's a big excuse that holds people back, I think, with coaching. It's just like, I'll just wait till I'm in shape. I'll just wait till I've got my life sorted. What do you think about that, Cass? Have you seen that, or besides being in the gym and seeing people say, "Oh, just get fit first"?
there's always the kind of, things are pretty good, and I'll sort of muddle along and see if I can kind of work it out myself. But there's something that comes up for me when you touch on this topic, Stretch. It's when we commit, and when we go into that, it could be working with a coach, it could be working with a health coach, it could be working with a mentor, whatever that path you want to go down, or whoever that person is. But I think there's something really powerful there about things are good, but how great could they be? Or what type of possibility could I be stepping into, and I think that's a really exciting thing to think about. It's like, if an individual is there thinking oh, things are kind of okay, I want to go, hey, stop, right? How big, or how bold, or what is the edge of your imagination of what is possible, and how do we go 5x or 10x from that? How do we start to really take your goals and go come on, let's get a bit bigger than that. Let's start to really crank the dial on that, and look at the story that you tell yourself about oh, I'm just going to try and achieve X. I'm like, well, how about we 10X that? And then somebody kind of recoils and I go, well, what's going on for you there? Well, like, oh, I can't do it. And then all the like limiting beliefs come out, all the stories come out. And then I'm like, let's
Flow,
go,
mate.
let's start to like get these down, because if the stories are there at this particular, this particular desire of achieving a particular outcome, like where else are they existing? And that's again our default mode. It's like coming back into this, we only know what we know. So how do we start to step into the unknown? And that's, the only real way to do that is with somebody who's going to point out that you've got blind spots, or you're unable to, to think bigger because you've got certain stories and beliefs in place that prohibit you from thinking bigger.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with you there. And on the back of that, one of the big things that we do have is a lack of time. And it's like, that's another one that we hear. It's that limiting belief that I don't have time for coaching. I don't have time to work on my health. And I agree, because men in midlife are just juggling so many things. It's the career, it's the family, it's the finances, it's the aging parents, all these things that are all on our plate, and we're just trying to keep the plates moving or keep the balls up. And it can be really hard. And we think about coaching as being time consuming. That's another commitment, another thing I have to add to my list. But the reality is, with a coach, it could potentially save you time and energy in the long run. It's going to help speed up the process, but it's going to help you manage your time better. We're going to talk about time management in there as part of coaching. And we might sometimes think that like prioritizing our health means we're going to start to neglect other parts of our life. Like if I'm going to focus on my health, or I'm going to focus on my life goals, does that mean I have to put work on the side, my family on the side, and everything else because I need more time over here? And I think I get it and I understand it, but what if improving your health, improving your life, improving your mood, all that sort of stuff has a downward flow on all other aspects of your life? I'm not going to say what if, I am just going to say it does have a downward flow on all these other aspects of your life. And getting that sorted, or putting that in order of like, health needs to be very, very high, because without your health, what do you got? If your health goes to shit, what's your career look like? What's your relationship look like? How are you showing up? Like if you're not working on that, then it's going to have that huge impact on everything else in your life. And if it's not having an impact now, fast forward 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, what cost is it going to come to you? And although, self-care can be seen as selfish, it's really not. We have to make time for self-care because that helps us show up as a better person. And if you're feeling like I don't have time, well, that's showing you that your priorities are probably out of alignment. And working with a coach is going to help you to put your priorities in alignment and adjust your lifestyle, adjust your schedule, and I'll give you the freedom to make sure you're setting boundaries, understanding your priorities, and working on the things that are giving you the best bang for your buck, and supporting the people around you, the people that you love. So that excuse of I don't have time, like Cass and I always call bullshit on that whenever we talk about that. But it is, it just is. You've got time. You're just not managing the time that you've got very well. And you could be far more effective by blocking out time slots, or by taking certain things out of your life that you don't need right now that are sucking your time. I think that's quite important too. I think the last one I want to touch on, Cass, and maybe you've got something to add on this, because I know your rates are expensive, but what do you say when people sort of talk about the investment? And when people sort of say, okay, like, oh, health coaching, life coaching, it's too expensive. Have you got anything that you sort of talk to them about when they think it's a financial cost?
This can be a big obstacle to overcome, and a kind of a short, snappy, maybe not, it's a way to, it's can you afford not to, can you afford not to do this? Firstly, it can be quite confronting to say that. So I might not say that to a prospective client on like an onboarding call, but like in passing conversation, when people ask me about coaching, and I explain to them all of the, what coaching is, the benefits of it. And then I say, well, look at what or how working with a coach can progress your career, improve your relationship, improve your health, and ask that person to list like all the upsides. I'm like, well, this is the investment and this is the upside. Well, surely that's a good investment. But often when I'm in my onboarding process with clients, I want to start to kind of I want them to really tune into the investment of working with me. Like, what do they want to get from this? And as well, it's not just about like the period of time in which you're in a coaching container or on a course like Mavericks, for example. Like, what we want to bring is imparting knowledge, imparting guidance, helping people like uncover their path within that period of time so they can continue walking it outside of the coaching. My job in reality, Stretch, is to make myself redundant. A good job is done when you help somebody or create a space for somebody to uncover their truth, uncover the path towards the outcome that they want, and give them the tools and know-how to continue to walk that path for years to come. That's what I want when I work with my clients. I want them I want to have a conversation with them 3 or 4 or 5 years after I've worked with them, and for them to turn around and go, that 3, 6, potentially year of work that we did together completely changed my life. And that
that's powerful,
like,
I like it.
That's how we talk about investment.
Yeah.
It's, you can stick in your default mode, or you can choose, you can choose a new possibility.
Yeah, exactly right, mate. A few things that I'd add to that is I think we will spend money on a new car, on a new gadget. We'll spend money on alcohol. I'd hate to see how many subscriptions people have and how much money we all spend on subscriptions. But yet we're often hesitant to invest in our health and fitness, or even in our personal development. No, some people are big on personal development, but how much do they put towards their health and fitness? And maybe because we think, well, I can just read a book, a self-help book. I can read a book on health. I can read a book on a diet. I can watch a YouTube video, and I can just keep consuming all this information that's going to make me better. But at the end of the day, it's not a lack of knowledge that's holding you back from achieving your goals. It's a lack of action. And if you're not going to take that action, why not? And what is that action? What is your plan? How are you going to implement it? These powerful questions that can really hone in on, what's holding you back and stopping you from making the changes in the life to become the man you want to become. And one other thing to look at when it comes to cost is like, okay, you're looking at the cost in terms of, okay, what am I giving away? But what are you losing? Like, if you don't invest in your health and you don't invest in your mindset or your personal growth, what is the cost? Medical bills, the loss of productivity, low energy. You're just wasting years going through the same default mode or the broken pattern that, Cass already touched on. And coaching could potentially help you break free of that and accelerate your progress to a whole new level. But yet your limiting beliefs about it being too expensive or I don't have time are holding you back from achieving greatness in a sense, or what you want to achieve. So I think it comes back to that. And it's one of those things to sort of consider at what cost. What is the cost if you don't invest in something that's going to have the potential to shift?
But the
shift
cost
your
thing,
life.
just to build on it as well, Stretch, is also it's a convenient story that we place in front of a fear. You know what I mean? It's like, oh,
Yes.
I can't afford that, and actually, there might be something deeper underneath that. It's actually, I don't think I can change, so why would I make that investment? Yeah, it's sometimes you just got to move the money piece aside. It's like you can't. It's not that you can't afford it. You might have just dropped a bunch of cash on a ski trip, or you're thinking about buying a new car. But there's something that I want to just share quickly, and it's often the like unmeasurables that actually have the biggest impact in our lives. When we talk about health, I'm not just talking about like our physical health. I'm talking about our mental and emotional well-being as well. And what I like or invite people to think about is like the vibrancy that comes from the process in which we walk of doing this work. Imagine for a second, like you're feeling flat, you're feeling a bit slow, a bit stiff, a bit despondent, just kind of a bit meh, right? Like, how do you turn up to your relationships with your partner, with your children, with your friends, with your family from that level of vibrancy, right? Versus, like, how do you show up when you just like exude joy, confidence, like well-being, you feel good in your body, you feel strong, you're on the path, you know the direction, you're making commitments to like something a bit bigger, a bit fuller. Like, you show up so different. You can feel it, you can sense it in a person who's operating at like high vibrancy. And the conversations that those people have, the way they talk to people, the way they talk to their family, their kids, their friends, the effect of that person in a room, their presence around their colleagues, and suddenly people pick their ears up and go like, what the fuck is this guy on? Like, what is he doing?
I'll have what he's having.
Jesus, like this
That's it.
guy's just like, he's on a different level. Like he's just like operating. And that's the difference. Sometimes it's really subtle, but when we start to kind of go down, and that path of really like improving our health, improving our well-being, improving our connection with ourselves, and stepping into like our like authentic paths, like our vibration rises, and that ripples out across our lives. And that has incredible impact. There's something which often is like sort of goes a little bit unsaid, I think.
Yeah, it's great, mate. I like it. I really like it. And I sort of touched on it before when we're looking at the energy you had when you spoke about the transition that you made. And we can go from that sort of feeling flat, feeling low, feeling stuck to having just this abundance of energy that can carry over into all aspects of our life. And it's a big shift, and especially in midlife, because we can sometimes feel like our health is on the decline, or we've reached this halfway point in our life, and from here it's the top of the hill, we're about to go down. But it doesn't need to be like that. Like, midlife isn't the crisis, it is the opportunity, and you're in the driving seat. So you get to choose. Like, do you want your life to be the decline? Have you reached the pinnacle? Are you going to let it go downhill? Or have you got the potential here to just keep climbing and just to keep working on, different parts of your life and have a different approach, see those values, see those visions, see the man you want to become, and really start to make the changes or make the shift that you need to head in that direction. And that's where coaching is super powerful. And the tools that, we can obviously use in coaching to help people make those shifts, like, I'm amazed by those tools and wish I'd known them sooner in terms of the personal training, of the clients that I had, and, how I was working with those clients, which I've touched on before in other episodes. But yeah, I think it's a great point to pick up there, Cass. Just an eye on the clock, we've come up to an hour, but Cass, I'm going to put it to you, because if someone was to ask you, well, what is life coaching? Like, how would you define it? What would you say?
Yeah, it's a tricky one. It is a tricky one. It's a tricky.
Is that what you say?
This is a tricky one to answer, but it means it's different for everybody, depending on where they're at and what they're turning up to coaching with, right? But I think in its most simple terms, like how I've experienced coaching and how my clients reflect coaching back to me, is that it's an opportunity to step into a space where a person can unfold what is going on for them, their dreams, their desires, their struggles, without somebody turning up and going, this is what you should do, this is the answer, this is unsolicited advice. Coaching is a space where a coach can bring forth the truth that is deep within the client and help them uncover their truth and their path towards the outcome that they desire. Because that's really the difference between coaching and training. Training is like, this is a set, system to follow. Just do steps A, B, C, D, and E, done. Whereas coaching is really getting to the essence of the individual's experience and asking powerful questions that point them in the direction of the result and outcome that they want to achieve.
Yeah. Yeah, I like it, mate. I do. And I think it's an important definition to make because we grow up as coaches, particularly like teachers or like sport, and it's all about, a different style of coaching, being told what to do. And I think the biggest thing is like, as an individual, you have a wealth of knowledge, especially in midlife. You've got your whole life's journey behind you. You've got a lot that you've learnt along the way. And as a coach, I don't know what you know. All right. I'm not walking in your shoes. I don't know how stressful your job is. I don't know your career. I don't know your relationships. I don't know your health status. I don't know a whole heap of information about you. Yeah, I want to learn about you. I'm here to find out more about you and help guide you on your way. But at the end of the day, you're the one that's going to have to do the work. And you're the one that knows your lifestyle and your situation the best. So you're the one that's going to be able to decide what you can achieve and maybe what you can't achieve right now. And I think that's another important thing when it comes to coaching. I think people come in and think it's going to be this massive overhaul of their life. And wow, I'm not sure if I can handle that right now. And like you say, it's independent. It's to the person. Some people want that overhaul and they want to go all in and they want to do all that sort of stuff. And that's great. Other people, that's not what they need. They need to find the small steps. What's the small action that I can take today that's going to snowball into something bigger in 5 years from now? Or it's going to get me started. And coaching can be small little steps at your pace, but you're the one that's going to build the plan and you're the one that's going to tell us what you're going to commit to. We're going to hold you accountable a little bit, but at the end of the day, it's your journey and you are the one that has to take control because Cass and I, we've both got a wealth of knowledge, our own journey, and we've both got a wealth of knowledge working with clients and expertise. But me telling you to eat a certain way, me telling you to train a certain way, that doesn't fit into your lifestyle, then chances are you're not going to stick with it. And chances are it's not going to be sustainable for the long run. So therefore you're going to fail and then not get back on that journey thinking that I can't do this, I failed. But that's the wrong approach. It's like, well, that didn't work. So what is going to work? Well, you tell me what's going to work for you. What do you feel you can achieve? And how can I support you in that? I think that's a really valid point to just sort of make about coaching. It's at your pace and you're the one that's going to do the work. You're the one that's going to build the solution and you're the one that's going to take the action. And it's putting that responsibility back on you. And I think that's really, really powerful because it generates big shifts. And if you've not experienced it before, then I recommend get yourself a coach because it's going to blow your mind when these things start to fall in place and maybe stuff that you've been failing at for a long time or feeling like you're not making progress with. So that's sort of my take from the health coaching perspective is I'm not here to tell you what to eat, how to train, all that sort of stuff. If you want to ask me those questions, I'm going to bounce them back at you. But at the end of the day, it's about finding what works best for you and me encouraging you to experiment with different paths and different ways of living the life that you want.
Love that.
All right, so off the back of that, Cass, we've got to talk a little bit about Top Gun.
29th January.
29th. It's like 2 weeks away. Like it's just around the corner. Top Gun is our program that Cass and I work on. It's the combination of life coaching, health coaching, and personal training. And it's targeted at men in midlife. And we want to say that midlife isn't a crisis. It is your chance to take control. And if you're feeling stuck, exhausted, and disconnected from the man you want to be, then this is your opportunity to start creating change, to start moving in the direction that you want to move. Okay. And we're here to guide you on that. We're launching on the 29th, which is going to be a little bit of an O week, getting everyone set up, getting everyone onto the system, doing an intro call, and then guiding you through what's going to happen. And it's an opportunity to rebuild your strength, to sharpen your mind, and just create a life with purpose, energy, and confidence, which sounds pretty good to me. So I wish I had a program like this myself like 5 or 6 years ago. It would have made a big difference. But it's about no more guesswork. We can stumble our way through this, our health and our life, trying to do it all by ourselves, but not feeling like we're making progress. Or we can feel like we're burning ourselves out, just trying to do too much. We want to help you guys build a roadmap and help you reclaim your health and, live the life that you want to live, not just now, but in your 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond. Spots are limited. So if you're ready to level up, then jump on the website. There's an application form there, just where we ask you some questions to find out a little bit more about you. And then Cass or I will be in touch and we can schedule a call and just see if it's a good fit for you. It might not be, and that's perfectly okay, but it's just an opportunity for you to ask questions, for us to get to know you. And maybe now is the right time for you to do something like this. Let's make 2025 the year where you create a big shift in your health, in your life for the better. That's probably what I want to say about it, Cass. Is there much you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think you've covered a lot of the bases there, Stretch, but I would say that the program that Stretch and I have built really it really touches upon like every single area of like one could call like holistic health and well-being. It's not just health coaching. It's not just nutrition. It's not just personal training. It's also life coaching and really uncovering some deep truths there and then helping the individual walk that path or create the path to the outcome that they desire. And I've said this before and I'll say it again, like the combination of our work together in one program is very, very potent. So if you're a man out there and you're looking to make some shifts, you want to make some changes, then this is for you. This will really shift how you look at health, how you look at well-being, and give you a vision for the future that you want to create. And it's going to require some deep work. It's not going to be for everybody. Some of the exercises, especially the ones that I put forward, can be challenging for people. And but it's you gotta jump those hurdles, right? So that's what I've got to say on the program. Really excited. This is going to be our second cohort that we're running. It's 3 months long, but really it's a springboard, into a new chapter. Is what I would like to say about that.
Yeah, 100%, mate. Like you said before, it's giving guys the tools that they can use over and over and over again. It's not just like a one-trick pony. It's not a cookie-cutter program. The questions are very individualized, and it's going to allow you to find the best path forward. I mean, you've got a choice. You can stay stuck and feeling overwhelmed and feeling burnt out, and you can make all the excuses under the sun, but here's an opportunity for you to take control, and it could just be something that's really life-changing. So if you've ever thought about coaching, I'd recommend jumping on a call and just having a chat to Cass or I just to see if it's a good fit. And if it is, get on board with our next cohort, which will kick off on the 29th of Jan. Cass, it's been great to connect again and speak with you tonight, a little bit about coaching, a little bit about the skepticism that comes around coaching. Look forward to doing it again soon.
Really enjoyed it.